I'm so excited too, Ari. So I think my screen is now sharing. I'm Katrine. I am with the Girl Scouts of Wisconsin Badgerland. I'm based in Madison, Wisconsin, and I am just really your moderator of the chat for today. I'm going to let the expert take over for how to podcast and how it relates also to Girl Scouts directly. So it's really pretty awesome. We'll go through the Girl Scout Promise and Law to center us and focus us as we do with every meeting. So remember why we're here and remember our dedication, commitment to the movement. And then I will literally fade to back and I will let Cheryl take over. So if we're ready, feel free to say the promise and the law with me. On my honor, I will try to serve God and my country, to help people at all times, and to live by the Girl Scout law. I will do my best to be honest and fair, friendly and helpful, considerate and caring, courageous and strong, and responsible for what I say and do, and to respect myself and others, respect authority, use resources wisely, make the world a better place, and be a sister to every Girl Scout. Great. Thank you, everyone. So we are super honored and excited to have Sheryl Robinson, who is the Hearts of Gold host and producer of the podcast, if you've ever heard it. She interviews Girl Scout Award, Gold Award winners earners throughout the entire country. So she has been a Girl Scout leader since 2002 and was a Girl Scout herself through the 7th grade. She has been on the Girl Scouts of Wisconsin Badgerland Council's Gold Award Committee since 2011 and the committee chair since 2015. So if you have any questions, just make a note. She produces and hosts the Hearts of Gold podcast. I'm super excited to introduce Sheryl Robinson.
Thank you, Katrine. I'm very excited to be here. I have a passion for podcasting, but I have an even bigger passion for Girl Scouts. So I was very excited when I was able to combine the two and showcase Gold Award Girl Scouts and promote them and their projects and teach the world what these amazing girls do. I was so excited to be able to combine those two things. So I have been a podcaster since 2018. I actually have 2 different podcasts, and we are going to go over some very high level how to podcast things tonight. And so I've divided it into 4 sections. I've divided it into recording, editing, how to share it out into the world, and then promotion. And so what I think I'll do is I will take each one of those and I will probably spend about 10 minutes talking about each section. And so if you have questions as I'm talking, put them in the chat box. And then at the end of each section, before we move on to the next section, we'll go ahead and do all of those things. But that way we can make sure that I touch on all of the things that I've identified as important information to get out there and then get all your questions answered also. Any questions before we get started? All right. So recording basics. I am not a good example right now of good recording basics. I am currently actually in a very large room. I have a hard wall behind me. Really what you want to make sure you do is that you have a room where you have baffles or air compressor, something that keeps the sound from bouncing all over the place. And often what people find is a great place for that is a closet, especially a walk-in closet, because the clothes create that baffling. You would not believe how many podcasters podcast from their closet. It is a normal thing, not an abnormal thing. Another thing to think about is what kind of microphone you're going to use. You do not need any fancy microphone to get started podcasting. You want something that picks up your voice well. The reason a microphone is important is because you want to be close to your microphone so the sound is picked up well. And often when you're just using the microphone in your computer or on your phone without a microphone, then there's some distance between you and whatever is recording your voice. Okay, so right now I am talking into my microphone, but if I move my microphone over here, you can see you do not hear me quite as well as when I am right on top of my microphone. And so that's really why a microphone is important. You don't have to get a really fancy microphone. In some cases, even the headphones that come with the iPhone, they work just fine. Again, you also have to consider your environment. It's not just about the microphone, it's also about the environment. Many podcasters use headphones when they're recording, and that is partially so that you don't get some feedback. If you're a solo podcaster, which means that you aren't talking to anybody, you're recording yourself and that's all you're recording, headphones aren't quite as important. But if you are recording with someone else, then it's more important so that you are able to do what's called record separate tracks. Because if you really get into editing, having separate tracks for editing purposes is easier. Because then you can have somebody talking, and if somebody coughs in the background, but they're on a separate track, you can take that cough out without losing what that other person is saying at the same time. Does that make sense? The big thing when you're recording a podcast is to check your mic settings, okay? And so I use Audacity to record. And so this is a program. It is free on the internet. The link is in the handout that I did. And this is what I use to record. And when I say you want to make sure you have the right microphone, I always go here before I start recording and make sure that my microphone, my podcasting microphone, is chosen rather than one of these other two microphones that is in my drop-down list. And so when I'm using Audacity to record, I hit my record button, I do whatever I'm going to do, and then I hit my stop button. And I am slightly anal about my recordings. So once I stop recording, I will do file, and I will save the project without any editing. And then I will immediately go in and do a save project as and rename it. And what I do is I name it whatever I'm going to name it. And then when I go in the second time, I rename it and I put edited at the end of it. Because that way I'm working with a copy. And if I really mess up in my editing and really delete and lose some information that I feel is really important, I still have that original recording where I could just go back and start all over. Does that make sense too? And then one other thing about recording, and what we're going to talk about editing, that's the next section. But one other thing about recording is that there are different kinds of files. Oh, wait, you know what? I'm not even sharing my screen. I'm sorry. I meant to share my screen. Okay. This is Audacity. And then this is the microphone piece that I was talking about where there's 3 microphones and I want to make sure to choose my podcasting microphone. And so then this is the record button and this is the stop button. Okay. If I go in here, you can see that there are, oops, that's not the right thing. There are different kinds of files for audio files. So Audacity has its own standalone, and then there are MP3, WAV, and then these other ones. When you're recording a podcast, after you edit, you want to make it an MP3 because that is what most platforms recognize for an audio recording. So before we move on to editing, does anybody have questions about the recording aspects? Is there?
So if I want someone to be like, if I want people to send me recordings, how would I put them into this program? How do I put them into Audacity?
So you could go in and open or import, if it, because more than likely it's probably going to be an MP3 file.
Yeah, so if they recorded it, say, on an iPad and they give it to me as a video, I could.
So that's an MP4, but so you could go in here and you could go to import audio and then find the file that they've sent you.
Okay.
And then you would click open.
Okay.
And then it'll open in here.
Okay. Thank you.
Great question. Other questions? All right, then we're going to talk about Audacity a touch more. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the podcast that I recorded for my other show last night, just because I made some notes on edits that I did. So when you record, it records in 2 tracks. I am not a super duper editor. Okay. I edit my one show, but my other show, my Hearts of Gold show, I actually hired an editor. So, which I also do video with that. So that was another reason why I hired an editor, because I didn't want to edit video. And so I actually send that show out to somebody else to edit. But this is the show that I edit. And so when I go to edit, what I do is I pull this down. Maybe. You guys can still see my screen, right? Okay. And then I pull this one down because I really only care about one track. Okay. I'm going to go back to the beginning here. 46 seconds. So up here, this tells me how long I've been recording. And I made myself a note that at 46 seconds, there was something I wanted to show you about editing. Okay. So see, so this is obviously me talking, right? But see right here, I'm sorry. The one thing I don't like about Audacity is I lose my mouse in here a lot. See this little spot right here? So that's a pop. I know it's a pop because I went back and listened to it. So I'm going to play this so that you can hear what I mean when I say a pop, okay? And I'm hoping you guys can hear this. I didn't think about that. I think that there is a setting in Zoom when I'm sharing. Let me look real quick.
Yeah, say new share, and then there are check boxes at the bottom of the options screen.
Thank you. Share computer sound. Thank you. I'm like, I know that I've done that before and then not shared the sound. Okay, so I'm going to play this. Everything else. That is not. My daughter had her gender. Oh, I think it's not playing because it's in my headphones. I'm just going to turn my headphones off, which means that you're going to hear everything. So you're just going to have to deal with it. Okay, let's see if you guys can hear now. Everything else. My daughter, so did you hear that pop? I'll play it again. Everything else. My daughter had her gender. Did you hear that? I like smacked my lips, right? That's not a sound that you want to leave in your recording, okay? So what you do is you highlight the section, and then up here, you could just cut it, but then your last set of words and your next set of words might get smushed together, and then it's going to sound weird because it's not going to sound like a conversation because you take breaks in sentences, right? So I'm going to use this, and this is to mute, okay? So I click that button and see how all of those lines in there went away. I'm going to do another example here. Now I'm going to warn you, see how right here, at 52 seconds, like my waves are going off the screen. I'm excited, so I got pretty loud. Okay, so just warn your ears ahead of time. So I'm going to play this and then listen when you're in this part, because what you'll see is, or what you'll hear is, you'll just hear very little, but you'll hear just some kind of ish backgroundish sound. Okay. It's your grandbaby. It's a girl. Okay. So you heard me like do an intake of breath and stuff there. That's another thing that you would want to edit out. So when I'm editing, I always go through all of these in-between pieces and mute them. And then there will be times, like at the very end, because after I finish my show, it takes me a little bit to actually stop the recording and do other things, right? So then at the end, that's where I would definitely use the cut. I lost my mouse again, I'm sorry. So I would highlight that and click the cut, and it makes it go away. Okay. And you can use those tools even within sentences. So sometimes if you like say a word funny or something, just stop, take a breath, and then say it again. And when you're in editing, you can cut out where you stumbled and put the regular word right in, and nobody will even know that you took that re-record. Okay. Let's see. We talked about that. The last thing that I wanted to chat about with editing before I answer questions is I send my files through another online program called Auphonic. Okay. And what Auphonic does is there is something called LUFS, L-U-F-S, and it's something with the volume of sound. It's a scientific thing. I don't understand it. All I know is that you want to be at 16 LUFS. Okay? That's all you really need to know. And so what Auphonic can do is when you run it through the program, it evens out the sound. Okay? So that especially when you have two people talking and one maybe is softer than the other, it'll even out the sound so that one doesn't sound as soft as others. If you ever listen to a podcast and you have someone doing an interview and like you have to turn it up when one person is talking and then you have to turn it back down when the other person is talking, that means that they didn't balance their sound by balancing their LUFS. Okay. So I always run it through here, and you can see this bottom section is what I submitted, and then the top section is what it changed it to. And it does it all automatically. Like I said, there's lots of science behind it. I don't understand the science. All I know is I have to push like 3 buttons and it fixes it for me. But it's really important because even if it's not within the same podcast, sometimes when you're listening to podcasts, you will end one podcast and then the next one is either really loud or really soft, right? And again, if you 16 LUFS is the average, and so if you stick with that, then you're more consistent with your volume with the other ones. Questions on editing?
Yeah. Why are there 2 tracks in
Audacity?
Yeah.
It's something with the input, and I think that it allows 2 tracks editing, but I only record 1 track, so it shows the same thing in both tracks for me.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. Other questions? Okay, so now for the magic. Okay, so we've recorded, we've edited. I'm going to close some windows. I don't want to save that because that's my original. This is just a snip that I took last night to show you guys. So I don't need that. Okay. I'm going to show you how I upload an episode. Okay. Before I do that, I think that this will help explain one piece that I'm not sure how to explain otherwise. So there is show art. Okay. So this Hearts of Gold, this happens to be my quote unquote webpage from Libsyn for the show. But you will see when we go through that I have show art and I have episode art. So this is just my general logo, and that's considered the show art, okay? But then what I do is for every episode, you guys can still see my screen, right? Okay. I upload a little picture, and that's called episode art that relates specifically to that episode, okay? So what I did was I prepped an episode that I need to load, and I'll just walk through the whole process with you. I use Libsyn, and I do pay for this. If you see, I have changed because I have 2 shows, okay? So my other show, I only pay $5 a month to host that show. And hosting means that they store it on their computer, so I don't have to have a server that I have to worry about all the technical stuff. I upload it to them. They do all the serving. They will send it out to all of the places. And again, we're going to walk through this, so you'll see this. And I only pay $5 for that one. For Hearts of Gold, I do pay $15. I probably could go down to $5, but because I like uploading the episode images and doing some of those things, it's a space-based thing. So it's a volume of how much data you're uploading, and the pictures count in that data. And so I've chosen to do the $15 a month plan. So it's still not super expensive, but I've chosen to do the $15 a month plan in order to be able to do some of those enhancements that I really like to have for my show. But like I said, my other show, I only pay $5 a month for their hosting. So I'm going to go to this content, and I'm going to go to add new episode. And so it just walks me through. So I'm going to add my media file. I'm going to upload it from my hard drive. Maybe. Oh, here we go. Okay, you're not cooperating. Where's episode 20? There it is. Okay, here's my MP3 for episode 20 of my minisodes, okay? So I'm gonna click on that, and I'm gonna click open, and it's gonna upload it. And you can see, here's where that piece with the space, the size of the files comes into play, right? Okay, so I'm gonna go to the next page. And I'm gonna put my title in. I don't remember how I title these. Shoot. I can go back and edit this later if I need to. I think I call it mini 20. Okay, and then in description, this is show notes. So show notes are that information that you want to share with your audience with different links or different things. So in this episode, I don't need that, and I don't need that. That was for a different episode. I must have forgotten to delete it. So I'm going to copy and paste this in here. And so in my show notes, the very first thing is this is where the website is with the blog and more information. This talks about this show. I don't know why that's weird. There. And then these are some of the links. Oh, this one, you can tell that there's a video that goes with it based on some of the comments I make, because I actually showed some web screens during this. So I wanted to make sure to put the video link in right here. But then these are links of things that I talk about. So I talk about Girl Scouts of Greater Los Angeles's Girl Workbook for the Gold Award, and I talk about Girl Scouts of Atlanta's rubric for the Gold Award, and I talk about Girl Scouts of NorCal's newsletter. So I put links in there so the audience can go find those pieces. Okay, so that I've updated my show notes. I only have one season. I'm not planning on doing seasons of Hearts of Gold, so I just put season number 1 in here. And this is going to be bonus. I do my mini-sodes as bonus content. I want them numbered differently. So this is going to be, I'm looking at my calendar, sorry. This is going to be a bonus episode for episode 41. And so what this is this is just a normal episode, regular episode. Trailer means that it's going to release before the episode number that you have listed here, and bonus means it releases after the episode. Now, it might release before or after, but when you go back in history and look at them, so if a new subscriber comes in and looks in history, that's the order it's going to be in. Does that make sense? And so, and a lot of this I can skip because I have it set up on the permanent side. So I only need to put stuff in here that changes every time. So then I'm going to go to artwork. And so this is where I put in my episode artwork. If I didn't have episode level artwork, I would just skip this page. And then my regular show art would be attached to the episode. So I am going to upload a new image. And I'll talk about the images in the next section. Okay, so there's the image, and see it has Hearts of Gold, but see it says Gold Award resources and mini-sodes. So this is specific to this episode. And then I'm going to go to the social, and this will automatically put so this will actually make a post on social media for me on these 3 platforms when my episode releases. Okay, and then I'm going to go to scheduling. So these are all the different places where my episode releases. Okay, I don't have to do anything. And this is all set up behind the scenes. And so it goes out to all of these places when I release an episode without me doing anything other than what I'm showing you. So I'm on Pandora, I'm on Spotify, of course I'm on Apple Podcasts. And so I want to set a new release date though, because I'm loading this before the episode releases. So this episode released on September 3rd. And I release my episodes at 2:00 in the afternoon. And so then I'm going to click publish. And that's what I need to do. Now, when I say it goes to all of those places, it also, because it's in Apple Podcasts, if you use Castbox or Overcast or any of those other apps that you listen to podcasts on, generally those pull the RSS feed from Apple Podcasts. So by going into Apple Podcasts, you get on all of those. So if you're like, well, my app that I use isn't listed, it's because more than likely it's pulling the feed from Apple Podcasts. And what an RSS feed is like a tag. It's like an address for your podcast. And that's what gets it out to all of the places and allows it, when you do this, for the new episode to release whenever you want it to release. Now, this is Libsyn, and as I said, I do pay for this. Anchor.fm is a free podcasting platform, and I've included information on Anchor in the handout that I did. Up until a few months ago, Anchor had problems. If you publish your podcast there, you no longer owned your podcast. Anchor owned it. And so if you decided to switch platforms because you really got into podcasting and you wanted to upgrade because you wanted features that a paid platform would give you, you couldn't pull your podcast with you. They owned it, and that caused, obviously, lots of podcasters to be sad. That has changed. I did include an episode of the podcast report in that handout because that is the first true kind of whatever it's called when you're not on one side or the other conversation I've heard. And one of the two men that are in that episode that are talking actually works for Libsyn. So to me, when a Libsyn guy can say Anchor has come forward and it is good for some reasons, it's good so that people can dip their toe in without being scared of having an investment, right? To me, that makes me feel more confident in Anchor. So I want to put it out there as an option, but I just want you to be aware of some of the limitations that Anchor has. And that's a great podcast episode when you're considering how to do that. So let me look. And Anchor is also set up to be an app on your iPhone. I think it's probably on Android too, but I'm not positive. I know it's on iPhones, where you could record right from your phone into Anchor and just publish right there. You don't even have to edit if you don't want to. I think they have some basic editing tools, but just know that that is a possibility too. So, questions on this section?
We did have one question from the chat. If there is a free option or maybe what the options are and the differences between them for Libsyn.
So Libsyn does not have a free option, although if you watch, every once in a while they will give a free month and of service so that you can try Libsyn. I absolutely love Libsyn. I cannot imagine ever changing platforms. Libsyn, I want to be honest, I am a Libsyn fan, okay? Libsyn, I think, has the most amazing customer service. I will send an email at all hours of the time, and generally somebody gets back to me at all hours of the time. I don't understand it. I know that they only have 17 or 18 employees, and they are not all in customer service. So their customer service is super great. I did forget when I put the handout together a couple of resources, and I will put them in the chat when we're done here. And then maybe Katrine, when you send out the other thing, you can just include them. Libsyn has their own podcast. It's called The Feed, and that is what I listen to stay up to date on the news. So even if you don't use Libsyn, to me, it's still extremely interesting because they talk about different technology changes. They talk about Spotify changes. They talk about Anchor changes. they talk about when new platforms come out. If you noticed in my list, Amazon Music was in my list. Amazon Music isn't publishing podcasts yet, but I am already set up so that when Amazon flips that switch in a couple of months, that my show will be one of those first ones published there. Like that, Libsyn stays so far ahead of the thing and is always working with all of these entities that it's really great, and they make it so easy to so this is destinations. So these are all the destinations I'm in. So when I had to do this Amazon Music, I literally went here to add new. I selected add. I suppose I can just hit cancel and it won't. Yeah, I can hit cancel. And literally I had to click save. That was what I had to do so that my podcast would start publishing to Amazon Music when that happens. So I know Anchor publishes to many platforms also. I don't know if they are, again, it's free. It's great because it's free, right? I don't know, if they have as many options as Libsyn, how quickly that they add new options. That's something that you would need to try for yourself. But like I said, if you like the newsy part, if you like being involved in the news part of podcasting, the feed is a great episode. I actually just met a Girl Scout this week that edits podcasts. She's still a high school Girl Scout. She is a Gold Award Girl Scout, and she edits podcasts. So I'll put her link in there. I also found a website. I was at a podcast conference, last week, and I met a gentleman, and he has a blog about podcasting, and I loved his blog because he keeps things simple and straightforward and answers the basic questions. A lot of times when you're new, you need the basic stuff answered. You don't need all of the let's get into the weeds of things. You want the basic things. So that link will be in there too. The other thing is, one of my favorite groups is called She Podcasts. And so this is the fourth link that I'll send to Katrine that I added afterwards. But She Podcast is Elsie Escobar and Jessica Kupperman. And they are two obviously female podcasters, and they completely promote female and minority podcasting. They are unbelievable women. Elsie works for Libsyn. She is one of the co-hosts on that other show that I talked about, The Feed. But She Podcast is a Facebook group where they have other podcasters, female podcasters, talking to each other. So it is a completely female-supported, loving group. And so I absolutely love that. They have their own podcast called She Podcast. I will tell you, not sure that all of the content is appropriate for high schoolers. But they are really lots of fun. They put on a all-female podcasting conference in Atlanta last October that I had the honor of being able to go to. We were supposed to be in Arizona this October, and that's not happening. But it's just an amazing group. It's very much like Girl Scouts, but for female podcasters. So that'll be another resource, another link that I will share. And I'm just sharing their website so that you can follow them on whatever social media platform or podcast, if you want to listen to their podcast or wherever. I'll just share their website so that you have all of their information. So questions on publishing and platforms. Other questions? Anything else that's come up?
Hi, Cheryl. Just to confirm then, from the chat, so you would go into Libsyn after you have edited your episode, you have your notes, and you have your artwork, and you are ready to go. That's the moment then, okay, now I go into Libsyn and do my work in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm showing this a little bit backwards, but that's because when I talk about the artwork, it so much melds into the social media that I figured it was better in that 4th section. All right, so then we'll move on to podcast promotions. So I'm gonna close. I don't like windows open, so. So I use Canva for editing my art, any art, whether it's social media or my podcast episode artwork or anything. So you can see here, this is Shrishti, and you can see I have 3 different versions here. Okay, I have 3 different versions here. So this is what I posted on Instagram. See, it's square. So this is what I posted on Instagram. This is what I used for my show art, my episode art, right? And then this is what I used for my YouTube art and my LinkedIn and Facebook art, because when I upload my episode for Hearts of Gold, I actually upload 2 different versions of the episode art, and Libsyn is smart enough to know which goes with which platforms. Because this looks better on the other platforms. So you can see that I have 3 different pieces of art that I've edited here for Shrishti's episode. Now, the one thing that I am on the free version of Canva, okay? So there are tools that are in Canva if you pay for Canva, but I don't pay for Canva. So this is a tool that's in Canva if you pay, but since I don't pay, I need to compress my images, because when I download my Canva image, it is super big and too big for me to upload. So see how I have 4 pieces of artwork here? This is my Canva square art. This is my Canva, I call it my YouTube art, right? So it's the long one. And then what I did was I went into the website that I'm going to show you, and I compressed my square and my YouTube art. And you'll see the file sizes are much smaller, okay? That saves me space in Libsyn, right? Because I'm paying for my space in Libsyn. And for example, YouTube would not have accepted this file because it's too big. The image is too big. They want a smaller size image also. So the way that I do that is I use this, and this is in the handout that I gave to Katrine, but I use this, and all you have to do is upload the image and click compress, and what will happen is, see, it says it went from 116 to 54, and then you can download it and save it to your computer and then use the small image, what I call the small image, right? So I use that to compress my artwork when I'm uploading. So that goes back to the show art. The other thing I do with social media, which I can't show you because, well, maybe I can. I didn't think about pulling this up beforehand because I always do this on my phone. And apparently I don't know how to spell Spotify. I don't know if I'm logged in, so. Of course not. Just go back. I don't want to sign up. Okay, so it doesn't show it here, but if you listen to podcasts on Spotify, Spotify has a share button. And so I use that share button and post it to my Instagram story. And so what I would do is, where am I? Oh, did I just stop sharing?
Yes, need to share, please. There we go.
All right. So what I would do is I would have this in just my regular feed. on my Instagram feed. Okay. And then I would also post this to my story. And then the next slide, I don't know what they're called, in the story, I would go into Spotify and I would upload and share from Spotify to my Instagram story. And what happens is when you share from Spotify into your Instagram story, there is actually a link there that people can click to go to Spotify to listen right then. So I use one of those up arrows that points to where that link is, which is in the upper left-hand corner, and encourage them to go to Spotify to listen. I like Spotify because it's available on both iOS and Android, so that you don't have to worry about what kind of phone they're using, because a lot of podcast players are only programmed for one or the other. And I really like that they can click right from Instagram, because Instagram is not always the easiest thing to get links into. So that's another reason why I like that. Other questions about the art or podcast promotion? No? Okay. What have I not talked about that people would like information about? Because this is just based on what I was thinking the big basics were. So if you have other questions, I am happy to answer them.
Hi, Cheryl. I'll ask one question. How far in advance do you plan your schedule out and your interviews?
So my interviews, I am usually out a month or two ahead of time, because I do not like getting close to a deadline. I like to be able to breathe. I work full time, not in podcasting. I do lots of other things with Girl Scouts. So I kind of fit my podcasting in where it needs to be. And by scheduling out a little bit further, that also gives me a little bit more flexibility and availability for the girls to schedule their interviews, so that I can work with their schedules better too. But my other show, which is every other week show, it's very short. It's usually only a couple of minutes long, but that's the one that I do myself and I edit. I usually record those on Sunday and release them on Tuesday. So those I don't record ahead of time. And I do the recording and editing and everything on Sunday, upload it, and then it usually comes out on Tuesday, except for like this week where I edited and uploaded Tuesday morning because that's the way the schedule worked.
What's your other show?
My other show is called Sensory Strides. And so that is a show where it's where I talk about what I'm reading or eating or doing. I'm taking a year off, but for the last 3 years, more than that, I've done the show. This is my 4th season. So the 3 seasons before, I have chosen a big race or event and trained for that over the summer. And so I've also shared my training in there. So I did RAGBRAI, which is ride across Iowa, a bicycle ride across Iowa. I have done a half iron and I've done a 50K trail run. And so those are, as I train for those, I share what my experiences are in that. And like last year when I was doing the trail run, you can imagine all of the nature things that I talked about because I got to be out at Kickapoo Valley Reserve and do a lot of my training. And I spent lots of time out there last summer. So. Oh, and I don't know if I said what it was. Did I say what it was called? It's called Sensory Strides.
Cool. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember an experience as you were making and creating your podcast that maybe you found particularly challenging, and how did you overcome, whatever hiccups or bumps you found on that particular episode or podcast?
So I would say that was before Hearts of Gold even came to be. So I started Sensory Strides so that I would understand podcasting, because I felt like, and you should always turn your phone off before you start recording. I felt like I really needed to understand podcasting and have a good feel for it before I really jumped in with both feet in Hearts of Gold, which was the project that I really wanted to do. Like from the beginning, Hearts of Gold was my passion project and what I wanted to do. And so I dipped my toe in with podcasting. And what I found out, because I knew, because of the audience, because Hearts of Gold is intended for Girl Scouts in high school, in middle school and high school, to encourage them to go gold, right? Because I knew what my audience was, I didn't want to do just a podcast. I knew it needed to have that video component and be on YouTube. And there are podcasts that are on YouTube, but they are a static picture and then the audio plays. And that's not what I meant. I wanted it to be interactive for the girls to actually see the other girls, right? And I learned very early that I had no interest in video podcasting and video editing. And I really struggled for a long time because I wanted to find a girl to edit, a young girl to edit my show, right? Like I wanted that knowledge to edit my show. And I struggled. I went to all the area high schools. I went to all the area technical colleges, and I couldn't find anybody. One of the very first podcasts that I listened to, I've been listening to them for probably 6-7 years, like forever, it feels like. I was listening to them one day, and they were talking about their son, who at the time, he was 17 or 18 at the time. I don't remember how old he was. Had just set up a business and was editing. And so I reached out to him, and so he is my editor. So my editor is somebody whose family, like, that's how they make their living, is podcasting. And he's literally grown up because his parents have been podcasting since 2004, 2005, like 15 years, like forever they have been podcasting. So like, he probably doesn't remember them not podcasting. So that's one story. The other story was at the 2017 convention in Columbus, I knew that I had this project in mind. And so I asked girls, I got feedback from girls about what they would want to see in a podcast or hear in a podcast, what would be important to them. And the thing that I heard over and over and over was, you need to be on Pandora, you need to be on Pandora. And at that time, podcasts were not on Pandora. However, when Pandora started doing podcasts, guess who one of the first companies was that partnered with Pandora? It was Libsyn. And I was in that first wave of podcasts released on Pandora. And to me, that was a huge success because I was fulfilling a request from girls by doing that.
And it's a lot like, that entrepreneurial spirit. It's not just knowing what's in need now, but what's going to be in need and what's the future of the industry or the passion or your interest that you're in.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you have any, it's almost 8:00, so my always last question is, if you had a word of advice for people who are thinking about podcasting, it feels like a really big thing and they'd love that one kernel of motto, that they would love to just take home for, in terms of podcasting one, but also Gold Award. Do you have any final parting thoughts on both of those?
I think both of them would be the same. It's find your passion, because you are going to be more happy doing it and you are going to get more out of it if you're doing something related to your passion. Every time I talk with girls about their Gold Award, it is about your passion. And in fact, that's kind of my phrase for my show. At the end of every show, I say, power your passion and conquer your challenges.
Awesome. Thank you. That's great. That's what your fuel is in the end. Gotta love what you're going to do. Thank you.
Do you want me to put those other 4 links in the chat box, or do you just want me to email them to you, Katrine?
I think if you can email them to me, that would be fine. I'll definitely include them in the in the follow-up for sure.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us. I hope that you take this to heart. And if you release the show, please let me know, because I love listening to them.
Right. And I'm just going to throw up really quick my, no, I am not. Wait, maybe I am, if I can find it. Share my screen really quick. Do you see the wrap up, the resources? I want to make sure at least I have those. Okay, great. So I heard that there might have been some hiccups with the link. That's okay. Again, I will reshare, but it is I made a bit.ly for it. It's for GS Badgerland Podcasting Basic. Hearts of Gold Podcast, there is the link, heartsofgoldpodcast.com. So go check that out as well. So you could hear Cheryl and also get inspired by the stories. You know, we're all Girl Scouts. It's really awesome to hear like how our sisters in the movement have really impacted and how potentially we could do our make changes ourselves. And I will put in a little plug that we will be starting our highest awards workshops here at Badgerland soon. So everyone on the call who's in the Badgerland, just keep a lookout. Info will be coming soon, and help with training and figuring out your ideas and how to move forward on those projects. So, that said, thank you everyone for joining us today. Thank you so much, Cheryl, for imparting your wisdom and your tips with us. And if you enjoy these experiences, we hope to see you at future events. We will be continuing our virtual programming this fall, and at least through December and beyond, because this is our world, and it's pretty awesome that people from really far away can still come together and find our similarities and find our passions together. Have any questions, email us at info@gsbadgerland.org. If you do a podcast, please share with us at that email or hashtag Badgerland at home, or I will also include Cheryl's contact info so you can get in touch with her with any questions, chat with about a gold award idea maybe that you have, and she'll be happy to answer questions you might have.
Absolutely.
So, thank you again, everyone, and I hope you have a great rest of the evening.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank
Bye.
you so much.